Imagine holding in your hand an ordinary copper penny, something you might drop into a tip jar, leave forgotten in the couch cushions, or toss onto the counter without a second thought. Now imagine that same penny being worth not just a few cents, not just a few $100s, but hundreds of thousands, even millions. It sounds like the setup for a tall tale, doesn't it? But this is no myth. This is the real story of the 1969's Lincoln cent with the double die obverse. One of the most mysterious and valuable modern coins in American history. A coin so rare, so unexpected, that a handful of lucky people have turned what looked like pocket change into life-changing wealth. The shocking truth is this. One of these coins has sold for an eye-watering $832,000. That's nearly $1 million for a single penny. Let that sink in for a moment. A penny that most of us wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk could instead unlock financial freedom, pay off mortgages, or even fund retirement. And the kicker? Many of these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for sharp-eyed treasure hunters to find them. Could one be sitting quietly in your own collection, or jingling around in an old jar of change right now? To understand the full scope of this treasure hunt, we need to go back to 1969, a year that was already charged with history. The United States was landing astronauts on the moon. Woodstock was shaking the foundations of music and culture. But in the dimly lit corners of the U.S. Mint, something else was happening. Something that would send ripples through the world of numismatics for decades to come. A printing error, a doubling in the die used to strike the Lincoln cent, created a tiny handful of coins with lettering so sharply doubled that the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" almost appear to be shadowed. Unlike other minor errors, this doubling was dramatic, unmistakable, and incredibly rare. And when paired with the small S mint mark from the San Francisco Mint, it gave birth to one of the most valuable pennies in existence. Now, if you're wondering why anyone would pay 6 or 7 figures for a coin you can barely buy a cup of coffee with, the answer lies in scarcity and demand. Only a very small number of these double die pennies have ever surfaced, with estimates suggesting perhaps fewer than 100 known examples. In the world of collecting, rarity is the golden ticket. Pair rarity with historical significance, and you've got a recipe for skyrocketing value. That's why collectors, investors, and museums compete fiercely to get their hands on one of these elusive 1969's double die cents. But here's where things get even more suspenseful. When these coins first started appearing in the late 1960s and early 1970s, they didn't trigger excitement. They triggered suspicion. The doubling was so dramatic that officials at the Treasury and the Secret Service initially believed the coins were counterfeit. Imagine that, finding a penny worth a fortune only to have the government confiscate it because they thought it was fake. For months, confusion reigned. Some of the earliest finds were seized, collectors were left in limbo, and rumors spread through the numismatic community like wildfire. It wasn't until the coins were carefully studied and authenticated that the government admitted the truth. These weren't counterfeits at all. They were genuine mint errors, the rarest of the rare. Born not out of deception, but out of a freak accident in the striking process. This revelation turned everything on its head. What was once seen as suspicious suddenly became a holy grail for collectors. And the values began climbing slowly at first, then explosively. By the 1980s, these coins were already fetching tens of thousands of dollars. By the 2000s, six-figure sales were being reported. And in recent years, that record-breaking sale of $832,000 cemented the coin's status as a modern legend. Think about it. A single copper coin, smaller than a postage stamp, commanding nearly $1 million at auction. The kind of story that makes you want to run to your coin jar immediately. But before you do, let's pause for a moment. Not every 1969 penny with an S, mint mark, is worth a fortune. And here's where the fear creeps in. Countless people have mistakenly thought they struck it rich, only to learn they had an ordinary cent. There are also countless fakes floating around, created by unscrupulous sellers hoping to prey on desperate treasure hunters. The difference between a life-changing discovery and a worthless coin lies in the details. Authentic 1969's double die cents show very clear, bold doubling, especially in the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." On fakes or less valuable varieties, the doubling is faint, distorted, or in the wrong areas. One wrong assumption, one overlooked detail, and you could walk away empty-handed. So here's the million-dollar question. How do you know if you've got the real thing? The safest way is to have any suspicious coin authenticated by a reputable grading service. Like PCGs or NGC, these organizations specialize in confirming authenticity, grading condition, and protecting your investment. And condition matters enormously. The same rare penny in worn condition might be worth thousands, while one in pristine mint-state condition can climb into the hundreds of thousands or beyond. That's why collectors obsess over details like scratches, luster, and sharpness of strike. Every tiny imperfection can shave tens of thousands off the value. Picture this. A man in California discovers an old coffee can filled with pennies his father had saved decades earlier. He sifts through them absent-mindedly, not expecting much. And then, suddenly, his heart skips. The letters on Liberty look doubled. The motto, "In God We Trust," seems to have a shadow. Could it be? He sends the coin off for authentication, waits anxiously. And then the news arrives. Genuine 1969's double die obverse. Months later, at auction, sells for over $300,000. That's not just a nice surprise. That's a life-altering windfall. And it could happen to anyone. Now ask yourself, how many pennies have you passed through your hands in your lifetime? Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. How many have you tossed aside without looking? How many sit in dusty jars, old piggy banks, or forgotten drawers? The thought is enough to make you want to search through every last coin you've ever owned. Because unlike the lottery, this treasure hunt isn't pure chance. It's about awareness. It's about being one of the few who actually knows what to look for And here's the twist that should make you sit up straight. Experts believe more of these coins remain undiscovered. Not all of them were found in the 1970s. Some were tucked away in circulation, hiding among billions of ordinary cents. That means the story isn't over. The next legendary discovery could happen tomorrow in a gas station till, a garage sale change jar, or the loose coins you just emptied from your pocket. Imagine the rush of spotting those doubled letters and realizing, in an instant, that your financial future just changed forever. Of course, with stakes this high, urgency is everything. Every year, more coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed as they pass unnoticed through circulation. Some are even melted down. That means every day you delay searching through your coins, the odds grow slimmer. On the other hand, every day you do take action, every jar you sort, every coin you inspect, you increase the chance of becoming part of this incredible story. Isn't that worth a few minutes of your time? So let's recap. The 1969's double-die Lincoln cent, one of the rarest modern coins in American history. Fewer than 100 known examples. A history shrouded in government suspicion and dramatic discovery. A track record of sales that have reached as high as $832,000. And the possibility, however slim, that one could still be hiding in your very own home. It's a story that blends history, mystery, and fortune into one small copper disc. Now, here's the question that lingers in the air. Are you going to be the one who takes this knowledge and acts on it? Or will you let another day pass, another opportunity slip through your fingers while these rare treasures remain hidden? Because the truth is, somebody will find the next one. Somebody will cash in. The only question is, will it be you? The time to act is now. Dig through your change. Check those jars. Revisit your old coin collections, or your parents', or even your grandparents'. Look closely, look carefully, and don't dismiss a penny as just a penny. The wealth of a lifetime could be staring back at you in plain copper brown. Because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest fortunes. And the next time you hear a story about a penny selling for nearly $1 million, wouldn't you rather be the one telling it? Let's start by setting the scene. The year is 1991. Gasoline costs barely over $1 a gallon. People are glued to their bulky televisions watching the Gulf War unfold. Jesus. And Lincoln cents are jingling in every American's pocket. Nothing unusual, right? But hidden among billions of these copper-plated zinc coins, struck by the U.S. Mint, a few emerged without something vital, the tiny mint mark that tells you where the coin was produced. A missing mint mark might sound trivial, almost like a printing error on a cereal box. But in the world of numismatics, the serious study and collection of coins, this seemingly small omission is a lightning bolt of rarity and value. Think about it for a moment. The mint mark is like a fingerprint. It's the tiny symbol, usually a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, that identifies a coin's birthplace. In 1991, the majority of Lincoln cents carried that identifying mark. But then, a small batch slipped through the presses without it. Imagine billions of pennies rolling off the line and hidden among them. A secret handful that didn't carry their identity badge. No mint mark. Anonymous, forgotten, and now potentially worth hundreds of thousands, even millions, to the right buyer. Here's the kicker. Most people don't even know what to look for. Right now, there are probably folks watching this who have 1991 pennies rattling around in a coffee can, oblivious to the fortune hidden inside. And here's where the story takes a turn, because this isn't the first time a missing mint mark has made headlines. In 1982, a no-mint Mark Roosevelt dime sparked collector frenzy, with specimens selling for jaw-dropping sums. In 1990, another Lincoln cent without its mint mark created waves in the numismatic market. So when 1991 rolled around, collectors were on high alert. And sure enough, the no-mint mark penny became a modern legend. But let's not sugarcoat this. The road to discovering and selling one of these coins isn't simple. Most 1991 pennies are just that, pennies, worth 1 cent. The challenge and the thrill lies in finding the needle in the haystack. The pennies without a mint mark are rare, but even rarer are those that have survived the past 3 decades in pristine, uncirculated condition. Because here's a sobering truth. Every time someone drops one of these coins in a vending machine, scratches it across a countertop, or lets it sit in a dusty jar, its value plummets. Only the sharpest, cleanest examples can command life-changing sums. Now, let's dive into the heart of the mystery. Why exactly do these coins carry such astronomical value? It's not just about the missing mint mark. It's about scarcity, demand, and the psychology of collecting. In economics, we call this the scarcity premium. When something exists in extremely limited supply, and when collectors all over the world want it, the price skyrockets. Add to that the historical intrigue of a government mint error, and you've got the perfect storm. For serious coin collectors, owning a 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln cent isn't just about bragging rights. It's about holding a piece of numismatic history. A coin so rare that it transforms from pocket change into a coveted treasure. And here's the part that might just give you goosebumps. Auction records tell the story better than words. Some specimens of these rare 1991 no-mint mark pennies have fetched over $80,000. Others, reports suggest a staggering $827,000 in private sales when preserved in the highest possible grade, certified by top-tier grading companies. Just think about that for a second. A coin that costs 1 cent to spend, turning into nearly $1 million asset. Wouldn't you agree that's the kind of miracle story that makes you want to run straight to your change jar and start searching? But wait, before you grab your magnifying glass and start tearing apart the couch cushions, let's pause for a moment. Because here's the twist. Not every missing mint mark is created equal. Some coins may appear to lack a mint mark because of wear and tear. Others may have been altered by mischievous hands after leaving the mint. And guess what? The market doesn't reward fakes. In fact, collectors are ruthless about authenticity. That's why professional grading is crucial. If you truly believe you've found one of these elusive 1991 no mint mark cents, the next step is to have it authenticated and graded by respected authorities like PCGs or NGC. Without that certification, you might as well be holding just another penny. Let's step back and think about what this means for you. You, right now, might have an overlooked fortune within arm's reach. Your childhood coin collection, your grandfather's old cigar box filled with change, even the tip jar at your favorite diner. But how many people will actually take the time to look? That's the million-dollar question, literally. Because while most people will dismiss a penny as worthless, the patient, the curious, the ones who know what to search for, they're the ones who uncover the jackpots. Isn't it ironic that in a world obsessed with dollars, stocks, and digital assets, it's the lowly penny that still manages to outwit us all? Now, let's inject a little humor here, because this subject can get heavy. Imagine trying to explain to your spouse that the reason you're crouched on the living room floor surrounded by pennies is because you're on a treasure hunt. Honey, I swear, one of these is worth a mansion. It sounds crazy until you realize that people really are cashing in life-changing checks because they spotted what everyone else overlooked. So laugh if you want, but then go check your change. Here's another layer of suspense. The window of opportunity might not last forever. As more people become aware of these rare 1991 no mint mark cents, the easier it becomes for existing owners to identify and protect them. That means fewer raw examples floating in circulation and fewer chances for a lucky find. The clock is ticking, and every day that passes, another potential fortune could vanish into a collection vault, never to be seen again. Do you really want to be the person who hears this story 10 years from now and says, "If only I had looked back then"? And this brings us to the climax of our story. Picture it. You, after hours of searching, spotting a 1991 Lincoln penny that looks different. No mint mark, clean, sharp details. Your heart races. Is it real? Could it be the one? You send it off for grading, waiting weeks that feel like years. And then the verdict arrives. It's authentic. It's rare. And suddenly, that little copper coin transforms into a six-figure, maybe even seven-figure treasure. You've gone from spare change to financial game changer. That's the thrill. That's the possibility. That's why you should never underestimate the power of the penny. So here's the takeaway. The 1991 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin isn't just a numismatic curiosity. It's a symbol of hidden wealth, of the fortunes that slip past us in plain sight, waiting for the few who dare to notice. It reminds us that even in the most ordinary places, a pocket, a drawer, a handful of change, extraordinary opportunities are hiding. The question is, will you be the one to find it? Because somewhere out there, maybe in your home right now, maybe in the very next penny you receive as change, could be the coin that changes everything. A coin that proves once and for all that in the world of money, sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest rewards. So don't wait. Don't dismiss, don't assume. Look closer, search harder, and maybe, just maybe, your 1 cent could turn into $827,000. Or even more. After all, the only thing standing between you and a millionaire's fortune might just be a penny. And isn't that worth checking? They say money can't buy happiness. But what if a single penny, hiding in your pocket change, could buy you a mansion, a yacht, and the freedom to never work another day in your life? Imagine reaching into a coffee can of old coins, the same way millions of Americans do when paying for gas or groceries, and pulling out a single copper-colored cent that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? But it's not a myth. It's very real. And tonight, we're diving into one of the most elusive treasures in American numismatics. The 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. A tiny coin, 1 cent in face value, that has been reported to sell for as high as $822,000. Yes, you heard that right. A penny less than the gum stuck to your shoe worth more than most people's homes. The question is, how could such an ordinary coin be worth a fortune? And more importantly, how do you know if you have one? Because right now, sitting in a jar, a drawer, or maybe even in your car's cuff holder, there could be a penny that changes your life forever. So lean in close, because by the time we finish, you'll never look at your change the same way again. To understand the power of the 2000 no-mint mark penny, we have to go back to the beginning. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation for over a century. It's the most familiar coin in America, minted by the billions, practically invisible in our daily lives. Most of us walk past them on the sidewalk without a second glance. But here's the twist: when billions are struck, errors happen. Sometimes tiny, almost invisible flaws slip through the mint's unforgiving quality control, creating coins so rare that collectors lose their minds over them. And when demand collides with scarcity, the value explodes. Now, you might be thinking, all right, but this is the year 2000 we're talking about. Weren't all the modern pennies mass-produced, cheap, and basically worthless? That's what makes this story so fascinating. Because the 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is the coin that shouldn't exist. Yet, it does. Normally, pennies struck in Philadelphia after 1980 carry no mint mark at all. That's the standard. So at first glance, nothing about a missing mark seems unusual. But in the world of rare coins, context is everything. And here's the kicker. Certain 2000 Lincoln cents were struck under unusual conditions, with error characteristics that made them unique. For collectors, those details became gold. And once word spread about verified sales reaching into the hundreds of thousands, the hunt began. Picture it. Someone finds an unassuming penny, maybe stuck to the bottom of a drawer, maybe handed back as change at a gas station. They flip it under the light, and suddenly, the details don't line up with what's expected. Maybe the strike is off-center. Maybe the AM in America on the reverse is spaced differently, famous variety called the wide M. Or maybe the surfaces shimmer, with the flawless perfection of a coin. Graded mint state 70 by the elite services like PCGs or NGC, and that's when jaws hit the floor. Because collectors don't just want these rarities, they fight for them. Auctions become battlegrounds. Prices soar, and what was once worth 1 cent is suddenly worth more than your $401K. Now let me hit you with the revelation that stops even seasoned coin hunters in their tracks. In recent years, one of these elusive 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cents, graded at the highest possible level, was reported to sell for a staggering $822,000. Think about that. A penny worth more than a Lamborghini. A coin you could mistake for pocket change, but in pristine, perfect condition. It's transformed into a numismatic unicorn. These aren't casual finds. They're the holy grail for coin collectors, and they ignite a frenzy every time one hits the market. So how do you know if you might be sitting on one? First, you need to understand what makes the year 2000 special. That was a transitional period in the mint's production. Philadelphia was striking enormous quantities, but it was also a year where several unusual die varieties slipped through. The most famous is the wide M variety. Normally, on Lincoln cents of this era, the A and the M in America on the reverse are nearly touching. But in the wide M, they're noticeably separated. It's a tiny detail, invisible unless you're looking closely, but collectors know it's the key. Combine that with an impeccable grade, free of scratches, nicks, or tarnish, and suddenly you have a coin that could send your kids to college. But let me pause here and ask you, how many pennies have you thrown away? How many jars of change have you ignored in the back of your closet? If you're like most Americans, the answer is countless. And that's the tragedy. People are literally sitting on small fortunes without ever knowing it. It's like having a lottery ticket and never bothering to scratch it. And that, my friends, is why this story matters. Because while most people dismiss the penny as worthless, a handful of people, sharp-eyed, patient, lucky are cashing in on life-changing money. Of course, you might be skeptical. You might be thinking, surely, if these pennies are out there, someone would have found them all by now. But here's where the suspense builds. Coins don't vanish. They circulate for decades, passing through hands, getting stuck in piggy banks, and buried in coin rolls. They sit forgotten in dresser drawers, quietly waiting to be rediscovered. And remember, only a tiny fraction of people actually bother to look, which means opportunity is still out there, hiding in plain sight. Every trip to the bank, every coin roll you crack open, every handful of change from a vending machine, it's a chance. The real question is, are you paying attention? And let's talk about condition for a moment, because this is where the million-dollar dreams are made or broken. Coins graded by professional services are placed under microscopes, scrutinized with merciless precision. One tiny scratch, one little fingerprint, and the grade plummets. That's why a circulated 2000 wide AM might fetch hundreds, even thousands. But in top condition, the price skyrockets to staggering levels. The difference between a penny worth $20 and a penny worth hundreds of thousands. Sometimes it's nothing more than how carefully it was handled after leaving the mint. Imagine the irony. Someone spends a penny on a stick of gum in 2000, and 2 decades later, that same coin would have been worth more than the car they drove to the store. Now, here's a curveball. What if I told you that millions of Americans have already unknowingly handled one of these rare coins? That's right. The odds are slim, but not impossible. And think about how many banks are still processing rolls of pennies. Some collectors buy boxes of coins, searching roll after roll, hour after hour, hoping to stumble upon one of these elusive treasures. It's tedious, sure, but the payoff? One discovery could rewrite your entire financial future. And let's be brutally honest. In an economy where people are worried about inflation, rising costs, and retirement security, the idea that a penny could transform your wealth isn't just exciting, it's downright electrifying. It's hope disguised as copper. And in times like these, who doesn't need a little hope? So where does that leave us? Here's the takeaway. The 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that hidden fortunes exist all around us, invisible to the untrained eye. And it's also a challenge, a dare, really, because the opportunity is still out there, waiting for those who care enough to look. You don't need a metal detector, a treasure map, or a millionaire's bankroll to start hunting. All you need is curiosity, a magnifying glass, and the willingness to treat every penny as a potential jackpot. As we close, let me leave you with this thought. Right now, somewhere in America, someone is tossing a penny into a tip jar, unaware that it could be worth more than their car. Someone is sweeping change off a kitchen counter and dropping it into a dusty jar, not realizing that in that moment, they've let a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip through their fingers. Will that be you? Or will you be the one who pauses, who looks closer, who discovers what everyone else ignored? The 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cent has already made headlines, already changed lives, already proven that miracles can come in copper. The only question left is, whose story will be next? Because the next life-changing penny could be in your pocket right now. And the clock is ticking. Have you ever held a penny in your hand and thought, what if this tiny copper coin was worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your entire retirement fund? Imagine standing at a checkout line, fishing through your change, and unknowingly tossing away a fortune disguised as pocket change. It sounds like a myth, like the kind of story your grandfather might tell while jingling coins in his pocket. But today, you're about to discover the shocking truth behind one of the most elusive and valuable modern coins ever minted in the United States. The 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin. This is not just another story about an old coin with a quirky mistake. This is a story about how a single penny, one most people wouldn't look at twice, has been reported to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, even approaching $1 million. And yes, it could still be sitting quietly in circulation right now, waiting for someone like you to recognize it. But before we dive into the details, let me ask you something. How many pennies have you ignored in your lifetime? How many times have you walked past one on the sidewalk, thinking it wasn't worth bending down? Well, after you hear this, you might never overlook a penny again. Let's rewind for a moment. The year is 2001. America is on the edge of change. But in the world of coin collecting, the Lincoln cent remains a steady fixture. Copper-plated zinc coins, mass-produced in the billions. On the surface, nothing special. Every cent minted in Philadelphia that year carried no mint mark, as is tradition. While Denver coins bore a bold D, collectors at the time didn't suspect that anything unusual was happening, yet hidden in the shadows of ordinary production runs, something extraordinary emerged. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. A few of these 2001 Lincoln cents began surfacing with peculiar characteristics. No mint mark where one should be. Strange anomalies in strike. Coins that looked different, felt different, and carried a mystery collectors couldn't ignore. What followed was a frenzy whispers in the numismatic community. Rumors of staggering sales and eventually, eye-popping reports of a single example selling for as much as $815,000 in pristine, top-graded condition. Yes, you heard that right. $815,000 for a penny. That's the price of a luxury home, the kind of number that turns skeptics into believers overnight. And some collectors argue that under the right circumstances, one of these elusive cents surfaces again in flawless condition, so the value could push into the millions. But let's pause here for a second. What exactly makes a penny like this so valuable? It isn't gold, it isn't silver, and it certainly isn't rare because of age. After all, 2001 wasn't that long ago. The answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity, error, and condition. Minting errors, especially those that escape detection and enter circulation, create instant intrigue. Combine that with a modern date that no one expected to harbor such value, and you've got a recipe for collector mania. Think about it. Collectors have scoured rolls of pennies for decades, hunting for double-die errors, misstrikes, and missing mint marks. Most of the time, the finds are modest, but occasionally, a lightning strike error appears, the kind that rewrites the record books. That's exactly what happened with the 2001 no mint mark Lincoln cent. And here's D. The kicker: you don't have to be a professional dealer or museum curator to find one. This coin, this potential jackpot, may still be hiding in plain sight. It could be buried in a jar of change on your dresser. It could be rattling around in your car's cup holder. It could be resting at the bottom of a piggy bank that hasn't been cracked open since the early 2000s. So, what should you look for? Here's where things get practical. Start by examining the obverse, the front of the coin. A genuine 2001 Philadelphia penny should show no mint mark under the date. But if you notice any signs of tampering, unusual spacing, or striking anomalies that don't match typical Philadelphia issues, you may be holding something extraordinary. Condition, of course, is king. A coin that has survived decades without scratches, discoloration, or where, especially if graded at the highest levels by professional services like PCGs or NGC, could command prices that make your head spin. Now, you might be wondering, how often does this really happen? Surely it's all hype, right? But consider this. Rare coins have consistently shattered expectations at auctions. Remember the 1943 copper penny? One of the most famous U.S. rarities. One of those sold for over $1.7 million. The 2001 no mint mark Lincoln cent may not have the same decades-old lore, but it has already proven its ability to shock the market with jaw-dropping figures. And here's the part that should make your heart race. Most people are still completely unaware, while collectors are whispering in forums and tracking auction records. The average American has no idea that a penny struck in their own lifetime, in the year of their first cell phone or their first home purchase, could be worth life-changing money. So let me ask you again, when was the last time you really looked at your change? How many pennies have slipped through your hands, unexamined, maybe carrying the weight of a house payment or a college fund? The thought alone is enough to keep you up at night, but before you start tearing through your piggy and appending your coin jars, let's dig deeper. Why do collectors go to such lengths and pay such outrageous sums for coins like this? The answer is partly psychological. Rare coins represent a piece of history, a tangible artifact of human error and chance. Owning one means holding in your hand something that almost shouldn't exist, something that escaped the cold precision of the U.S. Mint and slipped into the chaos of circulation. It's the ultimate treasure hunt, and the thrill of the chase fuels the market. And of course, there's the financial angle. In uncertain times, tangible assets like rare coins are viewed as safe havens. Much like gold or fine art, when a coin's rarity and desirability collide with a wealthy collector's desire, bidding wars erupt and prices soar into the stratosphere. That's why a humble penny can climb into 6, even 7 figures. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't this all just too good to be true? A penny worth millions? Here's the reality check. Yes, coins like this are exceedingly rare. You're not guaranteed to stumble across one in every handful of change. But the fact remains, they exist, they've sold, and unless you're willing to overlook every penny that passes through your hands, you'll never know if you missed your shot at fortune. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, after this video ends, don't just set aside your change like you usually do. Take a closer look. Line up your 2001 pennies and study them carefully. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Check the date, the mint mark, or lack thereof, and the overall condition. Because lightning might just strike in your very own coin jar. And remember, in this world of collecting, timing is everything. Prices fluctuate, trends come and go, but when a rare specimen surfaces, the market can ignite overnight. Imagine being the person who uncovers the next $1 million cent, just as collectors are clamoring for one. Imagine the phone calls from auction houses, the headlines in collector journals, the stunned looks from friends and family when you tell them you sold a penny for more than most people earn in a lifetime. It all begins with awareness. With the simple act of looking, most fortunes in coin collecting are lost not because the coins don't exist, but because people fail to recognize them when they're right in front of their eyes. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time a penny crosses your path, don't dismiss it as worthless. Don't let habit blind you to possibility. Because history has shown us time and time again that the smallest things can hold the greatest value. That a coin worth 1 cent today could be the ticket to financial freedom tomorrow. The 2001 No Mint Mark. Lincoln Penny is more than just change in your pocket. It's a reminder that treasures still exist in the most ordinary places. And the only question that remains is, will you be the one to find it? Have you ever wondered if the change sitting quietly in your pocket could be worth more than a brand new car, a dream vacation, or even your retirement fund? Imagine reaching into a dusty old jar of pennies, only to discover one tiny copper coin that could transform your financial future. It sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? But the truth is, it happens. And in the world of rare coins, one humble penny has captured the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters alike. The 1964 Denver Mint Mark Lincoln Cent. At first glance, it's ordinary, just a reddish-brown coin bearing the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln. We've all seen it countless times, handed it over at the grocery store, tossed it into a fountain for luck, or left it rattling in the bottom of the car's coup folder. But what if I told you that this coin, under the right circumstances, could sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars and, in some reports, fetch figures approaching the $1 million mark? Would you still ignore that jar of pennies sitting on your shelf? Or would you rush to sift through it right now? Let's begin our journey by rewinding the clock to 1964. It was a year of change and tension. The Beatles had just landed in America. The Civil Rights Act had been signed, and the country was preparing for the uncertain years of the Vietnam War. Amid all this history, the U.S. Mint was quietly striking billions of pennies. Most were mundane, everyday currency, but hidden among them, like a needle in a haystack, a few anomalies slipped through coins that would later command astronomical prices. And today, one of the most talked about is the 1964 Lincoln Cent with the D Mint Mark. Now, you may be asking, what makes this coin so special? After all, the Mint produced over 3 billion pennies that year at the Denver facility alone. That's right, billions with a B. On paper, these coins should be common, and for the most part, they are. You can find them in circulation, in old collections, even in your pocket change. But here's the twist. Condition and rarity are everything in numismatics, the study and collecting of coins. Out of billions, only a minuscule fraction survived in near-perfect condition, untouched by decades of wear and tear. And when a coin like this is found in pristine, uncirculated, mint state, condition graded at the absolute top of the scale, it stops being pocket change and becomes a ticket to a fortune. Collectors are willing to pay staggering sums for these survivors. auction records show top-grade 1964D pennies selling for well over 6 figures, with one example reportedly reaching $857,000. Imagine something you could have found under your couch cushions turning into nearly $1 million. The thought is almost absurd, and yet it's real. But rarity in coins isn't just about condition. Sometimes it's about mistakes, minting errors that slipped through unnoticed. And 1964 was a hotbed for these anomalies. The Denver Mint was rushing to keep up with massive production demands, striking coins around the clock. Under such pressure, quality control wasn't always perfect. Coins with double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and other peculiarities managed to leave the presses and enter circulation. Today, these so-called error coins are the crown jewels for collectors. Some varieties of the 1964D cent, especially with dramatic doubling or a misstruck mint mark, can send values skyrocketing into the hundreds of thousands. Think about that for a second. Somewhere in America, there are jars, drawers, queues, and piggy banks holding coins that appear boring and worthless, but to the trained eye, they could be life-changing. How many people have unknowingly spent one of these treasures at a gas station? How many rare 1964D pennies have passed through your hands without you ever realizing it? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? And here's where it gets even more fascinating. The Lincoln cent, introduced in 1909, is already iconic by 1964. Abraham Lincoln's face had become one of the most familiar symbols in American life. But the penny itself was undergoing subtle changes. By the mid-1960s, the mint was grappling with rising copper prices, shortages, and the looming switch to different coin compositions. That made the 1964 issues something of a last chapter for an era of pennies. Collectors see them as a bridge between the classic, heavy copper coins of the past and the lighter, cheaper coins of later decades. That historical context only adds fuel to their allure. Now, let's talk numbers. Not all 1964D pennies are valuable. In average, circulated condition, the kind most of us encounter their worth just face value, maybe a few cents to a casual collector. But move up the scale, and the story changes dramatically. A clean, uncirculated specimen might fetch anywhere from $50 to $500. Exceptional. Min-state examples can leap into the thousands. And when you reach the upper echelons, coins graded MS67 or higher, with blazing luster and flawless surfaces, that's when the bidding wars begin. That's when collectors dig deep, determined to outspend each other for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Picture the auction room, tense silence. A coin projected on the screen, the bidding climbing higher and higher. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Gasps ripple through the crowd. And then the hammer falls at a price few thought possible. The buyer, exhilarated. The seller, astonished. And the audience, left in awe that a penny coin meant for bubblegum and candy just commanded a small fortune. Here's a question for you. What would you do if you discovered one of these coins in your collection? Would you hold it, waiting for its value to climb even higher? Or would you cash in now, securing life-changing money today? It's a dilemma most of us dream of facing. And yet, for some lucky individuals, it's very real. But don't be fooled, this is not a simple game. Scammers and fakes abound in the coin market. When a penny can be worth $857,000, you can bet there are people out there trying to counterfeit them. That's why authentication and grading are critical. Serious collectors rely on trusted services like PCGs and NGC to certify coins, encapsulating them in protective cases with official grades. Without that, a coin's value is uncertain, and buyers hesitate to bid high. So if you do stumble upon what you think is a rare 1964D penny, the first step isn't to celebrate TIs to verify. Now, let's add another twist. Time is not on your side. Every year that passes, coins degrade, get lost, or are mishandled. The number of pristine 1964D cents isn't growing, it's shrinking. That scarcity drives demand higher and higher, fueling the market's urgency. Collectors know this. They know that waiting too long could mean losing the chance forever. And that's why the values keep climbing. Closer to the $1 million mark. Still think the penny jar on your kitchen counter is boring. Think again. That jar could be a treasure chest in disguise. And here's where the story gets almost cruelly ironic. Millions of people are walking past their fortune every single day. The coin that could erase debts, fund college, or secure retirement is sitting in plain sight, dismissed as pocket change. How many fortunes are lost in grocery store checkout lines, dropped into tip jars, or swallowed by vending machines? The thought should send a shiver down your spine. Of course, not everyone will find one of these legendary coins. That's the harsh reality. But someone will. And the question you need to ask yourself is, why not me? Why not today? So here's your call to action. Don't ignore the pennies. Search your change. Dig through old jars. Open the boxes in the attic that belong to your parents or grandparents. Educate yourself about what to look for: sharp strikes, clean surfaces, unusual errors, that tiny D-mint mark that could hold so much power. And if you do find something promising, don't rush to sell it on a whim. Get it graded. Do your homework. Because the difference between a penny that sells for $10 and one that sells for hundreds of thousands often comes down to a single detail, a single line in the grading report. The 1964D Lincoln cent is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that history hides treasures in the most ordinary places. It's proof that luck still plays a role in our lives, that fortune can find you in the most unexpected ways. And it's a challenge, Adair, really to start looking at the world a little differently. To ask yourself, every time you hold a coin, is this just money, or could it be something more? So, the next time a penny crosses your path, don't dismiss it. Hold it up to the light. Examine its date, its mint mark, its tiny details. Because somewhere out there, perhaps even in your possession right now, a small copper coin is waiting to rewrite someone's story. The only question is, will it be yours? And if that thought doesn't make you look twice at your change, nothing will. In the world of coins, history often hides in plain sight. Sometimes in a dusty jar at the back of the kitchen cabinet, sometimes in a forgotten roll of change tucked away in a drawer, and sometimes in the palm of your hand without you even realizing it. Now imagine this. What if one of those ordinary-looking pennies could actually be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, even pushing close to $1 million in the right condition? What if the same coin you've been ignoring your entire life could secretly be a golden ticket? That's exactly the story of the 1967 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin. A coin so deceptively common, so unremarkable on the surface, that millions of Americans have let them slip through their fingers without a second thought. And yet, certain specimens of this penny have shattered expectations, commanding jaw-dropping prices on the open market, with reports of sales reaching as high as $851,000. Yes, you heard that right. A penny selling for more than some houses. But how is this possible? Why would collectors fight tooth and nail for what looks like just another copper coin? And most importantly, could you already own one without knowing it? Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll see just how thin the line is between pocket change and life-changing fortune. Let's start with the mystery. The year was 1967. America was in the middle of the space race. Vietnam was escalating, and cultural revolutions were sweeping the nation. Amidst all that turmoil, the U.S. Mint made a quiet but monumental decision. That year, they struck Lincoln's cents without mint marks. No tiny D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, not even the classic P for Philadelphia. Just a clean, bare obverse under Lincoln's portrait. On the surface, it seemed like a bureaucratic choice, part of a broader push to eliminate mint marks temporarily in the mid-1960s to discourage coin hoarding. But what they didn't realize was that this decision would give birth to one of the most fascinating subplots in American coinage. The 1967 Lincoln penny, stripped of its identifying mark, suddenly became an enigma. And when you mix an enigma with rarity, condition, and collector obsession, well, that's the recipe for explosive value. Now here's where things take a turn. Not every 1967 penny is a jackpot. In fact, most of them are worth a penny, maybe two if you're lucky. Millions were produced, and countless still circulate today. But within that ocean of copper lies a needle in the haystack. Pristine specimens struck with extraordinary precision, curved against all odds for more than half a century. These are the coins that collectors will pay unimaginable sums for. The coins that transform a humble cent into a financial miracle. And here's the kicker: one of those very pennies, in immaculate condition, was reported to have sold for up to $851,000. That's not a typo. That's not a rumor whispered in the shadows of coin forums. That's a hard fact that should make you question every penny you've ever brushed aside. Think about it. You've probably walked past pennies in parking lots. Maybe you've scooped them out of change jars without a glance. How many 1967 no-mint mark cents have slipped through your hands, dismissed as worthless? How many tiny fortunes have we, as a nation, let vanish into the black hole of forgetfulness? But let's go deeper. What makes some of these coins so valuable, while others remain little more than pocket clutter? The answer lies in a combination of condition, rarity, and sheer historical significance. Coins that have been graded at the very highest levels, coins with that mirror-like luster, flawless surfaces, and razor-sharp details are the ones that ignite bidding wars. To a serious collector, perfection isn't just desirable, it's irresistible, and perfection, when it comes to 1967 pennies, is vanishingly rare. Most of these coins have been battered by circulation, scarred by decades of being passed from hand to hand. The ones that survived untouched, hidden in collections, or sealed away by chance are the treasures. They're the survivors of history, the diamonds in the rough. And when they hit the auction block, prices skyrocket. Now, here's where I'll throw you a curveball. Did you know that the U.S. Mint struck more than 2 billion pennies in 1967? 2 billion. So how can one coin from such a massive mintage become a millionaire maker? It comes down to scarcity at the top end of quality. Out of those billions, only a handful are certified at the very highest grades. That's why collectors lose their minds. It's not about the quantity produced, it's about the microscopic sliver of perfection that still exists. Let me ask you something. Do you think you could spot one of these valuable pennies if it landed in your change today? Or would you, like most people, toss it into a jar without a second thought? That's the haunting part. For every person who discovers a rare gem, there are probably dozens who unknowingly let theirs slip away. The fear of missing out here is very real, and yet, the opportunity is also very real. Somewhere out there, sitting in an old coffee can in someone's garage, or hidden in a forgotten shoebox of coins inherited from a grandparent, is another one of these extraordinary 1967 no-mint mark cents just waiting to be found. It could be sitting in your home right now. Picture the scene. You take a rainy afternoon to sort through your change. It's more out of boredom than expectation. You set aside the older-looking pennies, and suddenly, one coin catches your eye. A 1967 no-mint mark shining a little brighter than the rest. You research, you compare, and your heart starts to pound. Could this be the one? Could this be the penny that transforms your life in an instant? It sounds like a fantasy, but for the collectors and sellers who've cashed in on these coins, it was reality. One penny, one discovery, and suddenly their financial world shifted forever. Of course, the million-dollar question literally is how to know if you've got a winner. First, check the date. If you see 1967 and there's no mint mark under Lincoln's portrait, you're in the right territory. Next, examine its condition. Does it gleam? Are the details crisp? Lincoln's hair strands sharp, the lettering flawless. If so, you might be holding something extraordinary. At that point, it's not about guessing, it's about grading. Professional coin grading services exist for this very reason. They authenticate, they grade, they encapsulate the coin, and they assign the numerical score that collectors live and die by. That score could be the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and a coin worth hundreds of thousands. Here's where I'll inject a little humor. Because let's be honest, whoever thought in their wildest dreams that one day people would be anxiously staring at Lincoln's hairline under a magnifying glass, praying for perfection? But that's the strange, wonderful world of numismatics. Every tiny detail matters. Every microscopic flaw changes the destiny of the coin and possibly the destiny of its owner. But time is the enemy here. Every day, more coins are lost, damaged, or overlooked. Every day, the chances of finding a flawless survivor gets slimmer. And yet, the demand from collectors only grows stronger. The longer you wait to check your coins, the greater the risk that your opportunity is slipping away forever. So here's the real suspense. What if the next record-breaking 1967 penny hasn't been found yet? What if it's still out there, hiding in plain sight? What if it's yours? Imagine watching the headlines as another coin sells for a staggering price, and realizing you had the same date, the same design, but never took the time to look closely. That kind of regret would sting for a lifetime. Now picture the opposite. Picture being the person who does take the time, who sorts through their change, who recognizes the potential and acts. Picture sending that coin off to be graded, waiting nervously for the results, and then the call comes in. The coin is pristine, top grade, and suddenly the numbers start rolling in. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even that elusive seven-figure fortune, all from a single penny. This is not just about money, it's about awareness. It's about transforming the way you look at the most ordinary objects in your life. Because sometimes the ordinary hides the extraordinary. Sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest secret. So, the next time you see a penny on the sidewalk, will you still walk past it? Or will you pause, pick it up, and remember this story? The next time you open that jar of coins, will you dump them in a Coinstar machine? Or will you take a closer look, knowing that one of them could be the ticket to your financial breakthrough? The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is proof that history has a way of rewarding those who pay attention. And maybe, just maybe, the next great discovery won't come from a professional collector or a seasoned dealer. It could come from you, from your kitchen drawer, from your change jar, from your forgotten coffee can of coins. The question is, will you be the one who finds it? Or will you be the one who lets it slip away? Because in the end, opportunity doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes it jingles softly in your pocket, disguised as a penny. And if you're wise enough to listen, it could change your life forever. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny, and realizing it could be worth more than your house. Not $1,000, not $10,000, but hundreds of thousands, even millions. A single, ordinary-looking coin hiding in plain sight, disguised as pocket change. The kind of story that turns a casual glance at loose change into a life-changing discovery. And today, we're talking about one of the most mysterious and lucrative examples in U.S. coinage history. The 1968 no-mint mark. Lincoln cent dot Now, before you think this is just another get-rich-quick gimmick, listen carefully. There have been documented saleses, real auctions where one of these coins in pristine condition commanded staggering figures. One report pegged the number as high as $844,000. That's nearly $1 million for 1 cent. Imagine the irony. The smallest coin in our currency becoming a golden ticket. Sounds unbelievable. That's exactly why you need to hear the full story, because the details are shocking. And the implications could be sitting in a jar in your kitchen right now. But to truly appreciate why the 1968 no-mint mark penny is such a legend among collectors, we need to rewind. The Lincoln cent, first minted in 1909 to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, has been an icon of American coinage for over a century. Most of us don't give it a second thought. But collectors know that even the tiniest variation, a missing letter, a doubled design, or, in this case, a missing mint mark can transform a humble penny into a fortune. Here's where the suspense builds. In 1968, the U.S. Mint was producing Lincoln cents at multiple facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Traditionally, Philadelphia coins bore no mint mark, while Denver used a D and San Francisco used an S. But in the 1960s, the rules were shifting, and some changes to mint mark practices created confusion and inconsistencies. Out of this chaos emerged one of the strangest errors in modern U.S. coin history: the elusive 1968 no mint mark penny. Now you might be asking, wait a second, didn't Philadelphia coins usually have no mint mark? That's true, except here's the twist. The 1968 no mint mark cent that sends collectors into a frenzy isn't just any Philadelphia issue. What makes this coin legendary is the existence of rare specimens that shouldn't exist in their form. Because in 1968, mint marks were struck differently, and specific errors created cents that defied the standard production process. The details are arcane, wrapped in numismatic mystery. But what matters most to you is this: the absence of the mint mark. Combined with the right condition and variety, can push these coins into unimaginable price territory. And here's where the excitement ramps up. Not every 1968 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Most are just pennies. But in those rare cases where the coin is flawless, perfectly preserved, or tied to an unusual die error, the value skyrockets. Collectors and investors alike are willing to pay extraordinary sums, because rarity drives demand, and demand drives price. That's how we get auction results in the hundreds of thousands. That's how one small copper coin becomes the stuff of legend. Now, let's pause for a moment. Picture yourself at a garage sale or rifling through your grandfather's old coin collection. You see a 1968 penny, worn down, nothing special. But then your eye catches one that looks sharper, crisper, untouched by circulation. Could that be the jackpot? Could that be the one coin worth as much as a luxury home? The answer is yes, and here's the kicker. Many of these discoveries happen not in museums or bank vaults, but in the most ordinary places. kitchen drawers, old piggy banks, forgotten coffee cans in the attic. That's what makes this story so electrifying. You don't need to be a millionaire to get started. You just need sharp eyes and a little knowledge. Of course, knowledge is where most people stumble. They assume all no-mint mark pennies are valuable, or that any 1968 penny is rare. That's not true. 99 out of 100 will be worth face value, maybe a few bucks at most. But that one exceptional specimen, the one with impeccable grade, with surfaces that glisten as if untouched by time, that's the one that rewrites bank accounts. And here's the terrifying thought. Most people have already let these treasures slip through their fingers. They spent them, tossed them, ignored them. Somewhere, someone bought a candy bar with what could have been an $800,000 coin. Imagine that sinking feeling. And speaking of feelings, let's be honest. There's a thrill in this hunt, but also a fear. The fear that you'll miss it, that the opportunity of a lifetime is sitting right in front of you and you won't recognize it. That's why collectors obsess. That's why this hobby is more than just coins. It's a treasure hunt with real stakes. Because unlike lottery tickets, which vanish when you lose, these coins exist. They're out there. And someone has to find them. So how do you know if you're holding the right one? First, condition is everything. The most valuable 1968 no mint mark cents are those in mint state, meaning they look brand new with no wear. If your coin is scratched, dull, or dirty, it's unlikely to reach those astronomical figures. Second, look for professional grading. The coins that sell for hundreds of thousands aren't raw. They're certified by trusted organizations like PCGs or NGC, which authenticate and assign a grade. Without certification, a rare coin might still be valuable, but not nearly as trusted or as expensive. And here's a revelation that might surprise you. Not only do condition and grading matter, but sometimes microscopic details, the way the letters are struck, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the alignment of the dies can make or break the value. It's not just a coin, it's a forensic puzzle. And that's where collectors live, in the tiny margins where history, error, and perfection intersect. But let's not lose sight of the bigger picture. Why do people pay so much for these coins? Why would someone fork over the cost of a Ferrari for a penny? The answer lies in human nature. Rarity ignites desire. Owning a piece of history, knowing you have something that almost no one else has, that's power. That's prestige. And in the world of coin collecting, prestige has no price tag. For some, it's an investment. For others, it's bragging rights. But for you, it could be freedom, financial freedom, born from a penny you overlooked until today. Now let's insert a moment of levity. Imagine explaining this to your spouse. Honey, remember that jar of pennies you told me to get rid of? Well, one of them just paid off the mortgage. Suddenly, that clutter doesn't look so bad, does it? Jokes aside, stories like this have happened. People have cashed in common change for life-changing sums. That's not fantasy. It's fact. And yet, here's the cliffhanger. Most people will watch videos like this, nod their heads, feel the rush of possibility, and then do nothing. They'll go back to scrolling, back to routines, and the pennies in their possession will stay hidden, their value locked away. That's the tragedy. But it doesn't have to be yours. Because now you know. Now you can act. So, what should you do tonight after this video ends? Simple. Gather your change jars. Pull out your penny collections. Line up every 1968 you can find. Examine them carefully. If you spot one that looks unusually sharp, with no mint mark, tuck it aside. Research professional grading. Reach out to trusted dealers or auction houses. Do the work. Because while millions of Americans will never look twice at their pennies, you will. And that's the difference between spending 1 cent and banking 6 figures. Remember, opportunities like this don't knock twice. History is full of coins that went unnoticed until it was too late. Think of the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, or the 1914D, Lincoln, all worth fortunes now, but dismissed as pocket change by people who didn't know better. The 1968 no mint mark penny belongs to that same lineage. It's a key that unlocks wealth for those who pay attention. And let's end with this thought. Somewhere out there, perhaps in your possession, perhaps in the change you'll get tomorrow at the grocery store, lies a coin that could alter your future. Not because of its size, but because of its story. A coin that was never supposed to exist. A coin that whispers secrets of the mint's mistakes. A coin that laughs at the idea of value by turning 1 cent into hundreds of thousands. The only question is, will you be the one who finds it, or will you let it slip into someone else's hands? The hunt is real. The treasure is out there. And it starts with the most overlooked coin in America. The 1968 no mint mark Lincoln cent. Check your change before it's too late. The Lincoln cent has been in our pockets for more than a century. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Over the decades, it has become the most collected coin in America, partly because it's so familiar, so accessible. But here's the twist. Within the billions of pennies struck each year, a handful of rare survivors have slipped through the cracks, carrying mistakes, anomalies, or levels of perfection so exceptional that collectors will fight tooth and nail, opening their wallets wider than you could ever imagine. And among these hidden treasures, the 1985D Lincoln penny stands out like a diamond in the dust. Why 1985? To the untrained eye, that year seems ordinary, lost in the blur of mid-1980s minting. The U.S. Mint in Denver churned out over 5 billion pennies in that single year alone. 5 billion. Surely a coin so common couldn't be valuable. But here's where the suspense deepens. Most of those coins circulated, scratched, dinged, and worn down in everyday use. Very few survived in pristine, untouched condition. And in the world of numismatics, condition is everything. A single flawless penny, graded at the highest level, can ignite a bidding war that ends with 6 or even 7 figures on the auction block. Think about it. Millions of coins produced, but perhaps only one or two reaching the level of perfection a collector dreams of. Scarcity fuels desire, and desire fuels astronomical prices. Picture an auction hall filled with collectors, their eyes glued to a simple copper coin no bigger than a thumbnail. The bidding begins modestly, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. Voices rise, tension thickens, until the gavel slams at over $800,000 for a single 1985 penny. Why? Because that coin represented the pinnacle of rarity, condition, and demand. To the collector who won it, it wasn't just a penny. It was a symbol of victory, prestige, and history. A tiny masterpiece of American minting. Now, let's pause for a moment. If one coin could fetch nearly $1 million, how many more might still be out there, quietly hiding in change jars, dresser drawers, or forgotten coffee cans in basements across America? Could one of them be in your home right now? The question isn't far-fetched. Stories surface constantly of everyday people stumbling onto coins worth life-changing sums. The thrill lies in the hunt, and anyone can join the chase. But before you start flipping every penny in your wallet, you need to know what makes a 1985 special. There are three main factors: the mint mark, the condition, and the potential for unique errors. That little D under the date means the coin was minted in Denver. Denver Mint coins often strike sharply, but not all survive in collectible condition. Those that do, with no scratches, no spots, and with blazing original luster, are graded by professional services at levels like Mint State 67 or 68. At those lofty grades, a coin transforms from pocket change into a rare artifact. But there's more. Every so often, an error sneaks past the mint's quality control: a doubled die, an off-center strike, or a repunched mint mark. These mistakes, when paired with rarity, can send collectors into a frenzy. What most people see as an imperfection, the numismatic world sees as a jackpot. It's almost ironic, isn't it? We live in a world obsessed with digital money, yet one of the greatest opportunities to strike it rich could be rattling around in a penny jar. And here's the kicker: time is working against you. Every year that passes, more of these 1985 pennies are lost, damaged, or simply discarded by people who never realized what they had. The pool shrinks, the rarity grows, and the prices climb. That's why the stories of these million-dollar pennies feel urgent, like a ticking clock. Will you be the one who finds the next treasure, or will it slip through your fingers into someone else's hands? Think about it this way. If you knew there was a lottery ticket hidden in your house, one that could pay you nearly $1 million, wouldn't you tear the place apart to find it? That's the kind of opportunity the 1985 penny represents. And the odds, believe it or not, might be better than the lottery. Collectors aren't just guessing. They've seen the numbers, the auctions, the headlines. This isn't speculation. It's history repeating itself again and again. Of course, skeptics might laugh. A penny worth $1 million. Come on. But the evidence is undeniable. Documented sales have reached into the hundreds of thousands. Auction houses have the receipts. Professional graders have issued the certificates. The money has changed hands. This isn't a rumor, it's real. And if you think only seasoned collectors get lucky, think again. Some of the most astonishing discoveries have been made by ordinary people who happen to look a little closer at what they already had. So, how do you play the game? Start by learning to recognize the signs. Look for that small D mint mark under the year 1985. Check the condition. Does the coin still shine, free of scratches, or wear? Could it pass as brand new? Then, consider submitting it to a professional grading service where experts can certify its authenticity and grade. That single piece of paper, a grading certificate, can transform a coin from curiosity into a verified asset worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine the rush of holding in your hand a coin you picked up for 1 cent, and then receiving an official notice that it could change your financial life forever. That's not just wealth, that's history colliding with opportunity. And here's the part that should send chills down your spine. The window of opportunity is narrowing. As more collectors lock these coins away in private collections, fewer remain in circulation. The supply dwindles, but the demand grows, especially as stories like this spread. The next record-breaking sale could happen tomorrow, or next month, or next year. And the coin that makes headlines might be sitting in a mason jar in your very own kitchen. The only question is, will you bother to look? Imagine the look on your family's faces when you tell them that a simple penny just secured their future. Imagine calling your boss to say you won't be coming in tomorrow, or ever again. Imagine the relief of never worrying about bills, debt, or the uncertainty of retirement. That's the emotional power packed into a 1 cent coin. And yet, most people will never realize it. Most people will dismiss it as pocket change, leaving the reward for someone else. But not you. You're still listening. You're still curious. And that curiosity may be the very thing that sets you apart from the rest. The 1985 D. Lincoln penny is more than just metal. It's a lesson in patience, in awareness, in possibility. It reminds us that the greatest opportunities often hide in plain sight, disguised as something ordinary. That's why collectors chase it, why auction houses revere it, and why stories of its sales spread like wildfire. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the money. It's about the thrill of discovery. The idea that you could hold in your hand a piece of history worth more than gold. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or sort through your change, ask yourself one question. Could I be holding a fortune and not even know it? Could this unassuming penny, this tiny disc of copper, be the key to a brighter, wealthier future? The answer may shock you. But one thing is certain, you'll never know unless you look, somewhere out there. Another 1985 D penny is waiting to be found. Will it be you who discovers it, or someone else who gets the glory, the wealth, and the life-changing prize? The hunt is on. The clock is ticking. And the next chapter of this extraordinary story might just begin in your very own hands. Now, tell me, have you checked your pennies lately? For most of us, a penny is almost worthless. We drop them in tip jars, let them pile up in car cup holders, or ignore them when they fall on the floor. But what if I told you that among the billions of Lincoln cents minted in 1992, there exists a rare variety so valuable that pristine examples have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction one, even fetching an astonishing $832,000. That's not a typo. A penny worth 1 cent at face value, bringing nearly $1 million. And if you're thinking, well, okay, that's just one of those rare cases that only museums or dealers can ever find, think again, because examples of this coin are still out there, quietly hiding in piggy banks, coffee cans, and dusty jars across America, just waiting for someone like you to discover them. The coin in question is the 1992D. Lincoln sent with what collectors call the close am reverse on most 1992 pennies. The letters A and M in the word America on the back of the coin are spaced slightly apart, but on this extraordinary variety, those letters are nearly touching so close that to an untrained eye, it looks completely normal. But to a collector, it screams rarity and fortune. The difference is subtle, but the consequences are staggering. It's almost like finding a secret code hidden in plain sight, a message from the mint itself that only the sharpest eyes can recognize. Why does this tiny design detail matter so much? It comes down to a rare mistake at the Denver Mint in 1992. Instead of using the standard reverse die for that year's pennies, a handful of coins were accidentally struck with a design intended for proof coins minted in San Francisco. That tiny mix-up, that small moment of human error, transformed an ordinary penny into one of the most valuable coins of the modern era. Think about it. How many times have you overlooked a penny, thinking it could never be worth your time? But for the lucky few who recognized this subtle error, the payoff has been life-changing. Now, let's pause for a moment. Can you imagine the feeling of holding a penny, realizing it might be worth 6 figures, maybe even 7? Your pulse quickens, your mind races. Do you cash it in immediately? Do you protect it like a family heirloom? Do you call an auction house and prepare for a bidding war? This isn't just pocket change anymore. This is a golden ticket. A once-in-a-lifetime chance hidden inside the most common coin in America. But before we get carried away with dreams of riches, let's talk numbers. Billions of 1992 pennies were struck. Most of them are worth exactly 1 cent, a typical 1992 cent. The kind you've probably seen thousands of times is worth nothing more than face value in circulated condition. But the 1992 close AM variety is so rare that only a handful of verified examples have surfaced in more than 30 years. And when one does appear on the market, collectors scramble to outbid each other, driving prices to levels that seem almost absurd. In 2012, one example graded in nearly perfect condition sold for that jaw-dropping $832,000. Others, depending on condition, have commanded smaller but still staggering amounts, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands. That's the kind of payday most people only dream of. So here's the burning question. How do you know if you've got one of these rarities sitting in your change jar right now? The answer is both simple and tricky. Flip your 1992 penny over. Look closely at the word America on the common variety. There's a visible space between the A and the M on the rare close AM variety. Those two letters are almost touching, with barely a sliver of daylight between them. That's your first clue. Of course, serious collectors use magnifying glasses or microscopes to verify the detail, but even with the naked eye, once you know what to look for, it becomes unmistakable. It's the kind of detail you'll never unsee again. Here's where the story gets even more suspenseful. You might be thinking, all right, but the odds of me finding one are slim to none. And yes, the odds are tiny. But let me ask you this. If the potential reward is a life-changing fortune, isn't it worth checking your pennies? Isn't it worth spending a few minutes scanning through that old coffee can in the attic? The one filled with coins your grandparents tucked away decades ago? Imagine if one of those coins carried the key to wiping out your debts, paying off your mortgage, or sending your kids to college. What if the difference between financial struggle and financial freedom was sitting right under your nose this entire time? Still skeptical? You're not alone. Many people dismiss stories like these as myths or exaggerations. But every auction record, every verified sale, is documented and real. These aren't rumors, they're cold, hard facts. And every time one of these rare 1992D close AM cents surfaces, the coin collecting world goes into a frenzy, because each discovery proves again that treasures are still out there waiting to be found. Think of it like a hidden lottery that doesn't cost you a ticket, just a bit of patience, curiosity, and a sharp eye. Now, let's add a twist that makes this story even more electrifying. The 1992D close AM isn't the only penny error from that era worth a fortune. There's also a 1992 close AM struck in Philadelphia, equally rare and valuable. And beyond that, there are other Lincoln cent varieties, 1999 wide M, 1998 wide M, 2000 wide M that collectors pay handsomely for. It's like a secret universe hiding in the change you've been carrying your whole life. Suddenly, every penny in your hand feels like a mystery waiting to be solved. Will it be common and worthless, or will it be the key to unlocking a windfall? At this point, you might feel a twinge of fear. Fear of missing out. Fear that you've already handled one of these rare pennies without realizing it and let it slip back into circulation. And that fear is real. Countless people have unknowingly spent or discarded coins that could have made them wealthy. Don't let that be you, because right now, as you're listening to this, there are still undiscovered 1992D close AM cents sitting quietly in drawers, jars, and cash registers across America. Will you be the one to find the next one? Let's return to that headline number, $832,000. That's not just a record. It's a wake-up call. It's proof that history can slip into your pocket, disguised as something ordinary, waiting for the right person to uncover it. And while you may never find the exact same condition that commanded nearly $1 million, even a worn, circulated example could be worth tens of thousands. Think about that. A penny that buys nothing in today's world suddenly becomes worth more than a luxury car. So what should you do now? Start by checking every 1992 penny you come across, especially those with the D-Mint mark under the date. Don't rush. Take your time. Examine the details. And if you think you've found something, don't spend it, protect it. Place it in a coin holder. Keep it safe. And consider reaching out to a reputable coin grading service or auction house for verification. Because in the coin world, authentication is everything. And once you've got proof, the market will do the rest. As we approach the end of this story, let me leave you with one final thought. Most people walk through life assuming treasures are out of reach, that $1 million opportunities are reserved for the lucky few. But history shows us otherwise. Sometimes, the rarest treasures aren't buried in distant lands or locked away in museums. Sometimes, they're sitting in plain sight, waiting for an ordinary person to recognize them. And the 1992 close AM. Lincoln Cent is one of the greatest reminders of that truth. So the next time you glance at a penny and feel the urge to ignore it, remember this story? Remember that 1 cent can equal $832,000. Remember that fortunes can hide in the smallest, most overlooked corners of life. And above all, remember that the only way to miss out for certain is not to look at all. Because right now, as we speak, someone out there is holding a penny that will change their life forever. The question is, will that someone be you?